So the last part of our internal assessment write-up that we're working on should be the discussion and the application, or sometimes it's called discussion, evaluation, and application. Let's take a look at that. And so this is the part where you're going to talk about the real conclusion that you came to in terms of the hypothesis. So it's really divided into three sections. The first part is really the conclusion. So you're going to be calling it the discussion, but you're going to talk about the hypothesis. You could start off by repeating the hypothesis or the hypotheses that you had there. Talk about if you thought it was validated or not validated, verified or not verified. Try not to use general terms. Try to actually use data. So the linear correlation is positive, and therefore it shows that the hypothesis is true, something like that. The thing that people forget about is that you really need to have a biological reason. So this is an objective 3 sort of an activity here. So don't forget then, try and give some explanation whether things worked out the way you thought or whether they didn't. Try and come up with some ideas in terms of the material that we've been discussing this year in the class. Then you actually go ahead and do an evaluation. This is a discussion here of issues that you had with the project that you did, limitations, that is, how it adversely affected your results, and what you might do to improve it next time. Typically, people do this in terms of a table, something like this. And not everyone does, but I like to put it into a 3-column. What was the issue? What's the limitation? What's the improvement? So, for example, I might have down here, if I did a survey project, that the issue was the sampling group that I had chosen. What was the limitation? Well, since I had only had high school teenagers, their answers might be a little more liberal than the population in general. So what's my improvement? Next time, I'll try and extend the survey out to other groups. Pretty simple. Or you might have down here the years that you sampled. What was the problem? The database I was looking at only had a certain number of years, which I thought were not reflective of things in general. So I might use different databases next time, and you might suggest what databases you might use next time. And that's kind of how you do it. You should at least have 3 limitations. Pretty easy to come up with things. What we don't want to come up with is we definitely don't want to see human errors. So we want to do things which are systemic, but not human error. Don't do things like, next time I'll be more careful and I won't drop the test tube on the floor. We don't want to do that. The other thing we don't want to do is we don't want to do more of the same. So let's suppose that you didn't do good statistics, and the reason was you didn't have enough data, so your improvement next time would be, well, I'll just do more trials. That's not really a limitation, though, isn't it? I mean, nothing was stopping you from doing more trials the first time. You may have just been lazy, didn't have enough time. So we want to do things where we would actually change the procedure that we did, not just do more of the same. And definitely don't have a limitation that disagrees with your hypothesis and your conclusion. So, for example, if I were to say that, yeah, everything worked out really great, my hypothesis was true, and next time I'm going to sample more students, I mean, well, why? Everything worked out great for you, right? And then the last thing you want to do is your application. So you should talk again about what was the environmental biological significance of the issue you were studying and the results, and how might you now use that result. So, in other words, hopefully you learned something by doing this research project, and now that you know what you know, what would be the next step? So where would you apply it, and what would you do next? And that should pretty much finish up our first draft for the ESS Internal Assessment.